everyone, and welcome to another episode of Annie Talks, where we bring to you interesting stories about interesting people that you want to know about. I'm your host, Annie Rivera. Thank you for tuning in, and to those who have already subscribed. If you're new to the podcast, welcome, and I hope you enjoy what you hear. And if so, I personally invite you to subscribe. Annie Talks is brought to you by Luxwear Trends, affordable, luxurious timepieces for every occasion, luxury that lasts forever, and that's what sets us apart from others. Find us on Facebook and Instagram or visit luxweartrends.com. That's Luxe weartrends.com. I am super excited to announce the next guest on my show, who is Comedian Vince Royale, a Jersey native who was always the class clown, he says. He never thought comedy would be his career. Vince currently lives in Los Angeles, who he refers to himself as the former homeless salesman turned stand-up comedian. He has appeared in the entire season of MTV's Bad Sex, Laughs on Fox, Fuse TV's Stand Up and Deliver, and presently on a TV show titled Not for Nothing on Amazon Prime, and in a film, Attack of the Killer Donuts on Showtime. Vince has been regularly performing throughout the Los Angeles area hotspots, in New York nightclubs, and touring internationally for nearly a decade. Vince is extremely down-to-earth and full of charisma, and he has an uncanny ability to turn the things he sees into hilarity. Vince also performs as multiple sketch characters, which he incorporates into his stand-up, parody music videos, and comedy sketch videos on social media networks. He is humble and says that his passion for comedy and ability to do what he loves in front of an audience is indeed a blessing. Vince utilizes his talents to inspire and promote positivity. He organizes comedy and music events for fundraisers and donation drives to benefit orphanages and homeless shelters in the U.S. and abroad. Here now is my conversation with comedian Vince Royale. Hey Vince, thanks so much for being on the show. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm happy to be here and
Awesome. Thank you so much. So give a sense of your background. Give us, the audience and the listeners, just kind of your background in your hometown and your upbringing and so on and so forth. Just kind of fill in those gaps for us.
I'm originally from Jersey City, New Jersey. It's in the East Coast. It's right across the river from Manhattan. So, that's where I pretty much grew up. I lived in Jersey City most of my life. I've lived different parts of New York. So, and now I'm here in Los Angeles, California, doing my comedy, acting, music, pursuing all those things.
Awesome. So tell us, what were you doing before you became a comedian?
Well, in Jersey City, I was always into sales. So I worked all kinds of jobs. I've always been into music though. I started off, making beats and rapping and as far as before comedy, but I've always taken on jobs. For some reason I've always been a good salesman. So I was a salesman since I was about 13, 14 years old. Been into music, and it wasn't until 2008 that I started getting involved in stand-up comedy when I moved to California.
And what was that aha moment that made you decide to be a comedian? And did you have like a break into show business moment?
You know what? I've always been behind the scenes. I've never imagined that I would be doing stand-up. It kind of just got involved accidentally. Back in 2008, when I first moved to California, I didn't know anybody, and I wanted to leave. I was going through depression at that time. I was breaking up with somebody I was with for a few years, and so I decided, you know what, I'm going to stop doing music, and I'm just going to be a professional alcoholic. So I was hanging out at different dive bars, bowling alleys, and one night they had a comedy night, and I just started watching stand-up comedy while I was drinking, and it just made me forget about what I was going through at that time. And from one night, I was kind of tipsy. I signed up for their amateur open mic night. I went up on stage and just started ranting, and the crowd enjoyed what I was saying. They were laughing, and at that point, I was hooked. The host said I was very funny. Yeah, the host said I was very funny, invited me to come back the following week for a comedy contest. I won that contest, and then from there, I became obsessed and started doing comedy about almost every night of the week. I became very obsessed my first few years. I studied all the great comics. I was doing comedy 7 nights a week, 3-4 times a night, and until it just became very instinctive for me. But like I said, I always connected my past with my ex. Everything I did in Jersey was nothing to do with me performing. It was always behind the scenes. I was writing songs, writing raps, and making beats. And I thought I'd leave that part alone. I thought it was a new chapter. Comedy introduced this new creative aspect into my life. But more recently, maybe the past 2-3 years, I started incorporating music into my stand-up as well, too. Like, I've developed different characters, and they all have their own personas, and they actually rap as different characters. So it all went around full circle. I did it all connected somehow.
Isn't it interesting how life experiences kind of open up opportunities for, another door for us, and sometimes not even knowing, that's the path we're supposed to take, it just opens up, and then lo and behold, it becomes your path. It becomes something instinctive for you. I really enjoyed hearing that about your story and how you came about in stand-up comedian or comedy. So tell us about the comedians who influenced you and inspired you in the past.
Well, it's, every comedian that I work with, whether it's celebrity comics or just up-and-coming comedians, there are different levels of comedians that I've met throughout my comedy journey. And there's not one particular comic that I'm like, this person, it's always, I've had several mentors. I've studied also great comedians. So I can't name one, but I do know that, I don't know, I'm a big comedy fan, and I'm very passionate about the craft. Everyone has so many different styles that I've learned from and just study, and I'm able to develop my own and just, develop my unique, my unique approach to comedy. When I first started doing comedy, I did watch everybody's, I studied all the comedy greats though. I watched from Richard Pryor to George Carlin to, Dave Chappelle, all the guys that made a name for themselves in comedy. I've studied their careers, studied all the stand-up, and saw what made them great. And so, my goal was to be the best version of myself, and create my own path.
Talk about your greatest impact on growing up. Who had the biggest and greatest impact on you growing up?
Would be my mother. My mother actually, I grew up in Jersey City, which was in the very best neighborhood. I love Jersey City because it was very diverse. It exposed me to a lot of different cultures. There's over 70 different languages spoken, so it's very unique in a sense. I travel the country a lot, and there's a lot of places in the country where it's not as diverse. It's most predominantly one group of people. So growing up in Jersey City was a blessing for me because I was exposed to different cultures, and I was able to appreciate and learn from different people. My mother, she raised me as a single mom. So she definitely, Jersey City wasn't always the best neighborhood as well. So there was a lot of, street influences. I wasn't always the best, I was a delinquent growing up. But my mother was able to be, patient enough to watch me grow and deal with all the turmoil that I put her through. You know, my mother was raising me and my sister by herself. She worked 2 jobs and was going to school. So she did her best to bring me up in that kind of environment, you know. But at the same time, it was kind of gave me a lot of freedom because at that age, I don't think I had no guidance because since my mother was always working, I was out in the streets, you know, running around and doing a bunch of crazy nonsense, you know. So like growing up, like I said, it was really rough, you know. But I appreciate all the experiences that I learned. Like I said, even though I grew up in a rough neighborhood, and you know, I was exposed to drugs and gang violence, it made me who I am today, and made me, you know, getting to acquiring survival tactics and street knowledge, apply, you know, like that helped me throughout my life, you know, and then eventually, like I said, I was able to evolve and actually get myself into college, so I was able to incorporate that in all aspects of my life.
Wonderful. So now talk about some of the challenges you've had or obstacles that you've had maybe in your journey of becoming a comedian, and then also talk about some of the greatest achievements or most memorable moments if you can.
You know, one thing about the blessing that I had, like I was able to move up my comedy career to the level to the point that I'm able to travel now and get booked in all kinds of venues and different places, and that was definitely an eye-opening experience for me. Going to like traveling to the middle of nowhere and going to these small towns, like there's places in Montana or Idaho where it's like I said, they've never seen a brown person before, you know, because you know, my family background is Filipino, so like there's never been, you know, I go into places where it's like they've never seen somebody like me, a brown person. So it's like, for me, the challenges was like, how do I make these people laugh that don't look like me? I was always that, you know, even in comedy shows too, I'm always the token guy, you know, where the show is predominantly black or predominantly white, you know, I'm the oddball out. And so the thing is, that was in the beginning was a challenge, but I learned to adjust, and me being exposed to different cultures, growing up in Jersey City, I was able to adapt and, you know, find the humor and everything. And I'm very, being a comedian, it's just made me a lot more, should I say, like a social scientist. I pay attention to people's, behavior, you know, it kind of, being a comedian, you're in front of hundreds of people all the time at a time, and you're at bars, you're at bowling alleys, comedy clubs, different venues. You learn how to adapt, and you learn to study people's behaviors and what triggers laughter and humor. So it's made me a lot more aware of my surroundings and people's behaviors, and being able to adapt in any type of situation. So that was a challenge in the beginning, but like I said, I'm going into about almost 10 years of doing comedy, and like I said, being exposed to different people, different backgrounds, just made me a lot more aware and observational.
I love that that term that you just used, social scientist. So, I mean, you're in essence people watching, and you're learning kind of behaviors, and really, you know, it's ways to, you know, not only kind of celebrate it, but it's ways to, you know, kind of poke fun, lightly, and, you know, just kind of bring some satire and humor to it. So I get that. I really love that about that.
And people don't understand when you're up there, and people think it's very easy or simple, or, oh, you're just making people laugh. They don't understand it. It takes a certain level of work and intelligence to become a stand-up comedian or a performer. You know, even though, like, yeah, you know, he's up there joking, you're studying, you're constantly writing, you're constantly trying out material to see what works or not in different environments or scenarios. You know, one joke may work in a group of, in one room with a group of certain people, but may not work in another room. And that's why you find a lot of different comedians that are that are well-rounded do really well in different rooms, but there's some people that are just comfortable with one particular room, you know what I'm saying? So it's like I've seen comedians do really well in a particular audience, but can't do well in different rooms. And I think for me, I just continue to work to the point that I can be funny in any type of room or situation.
Before we get into Bruno Bars and some of your other characters, tell us a little bit about some of your greatest achievements so far.
Oh yeah, you know what? I've 5 years into comedy, I was able to land a few TV gigs. I've appeared in Stand Up and Deliver on Fuse TV. I think it was Nouveau TV at that time, but it went into Hulu. So I've been on Hulu. I've been on a regular on Laughs on Fox, which is a nationally syndicated show. I've appeared in reality shows on MTV. I've had small roles in different independent films. So I've done, you know, quite a few things as far as television and films, and you know, as far as performances, like I said, I've traveled all over the country and Canada and South America to do stand up. So I've been blessed to be able to travel and meet different people, you know. And you know, as far as like I started doing my characters about 2-3 years ago, and then that's been fun also because it's actually opened up a few more doors for myself too. I'm actually working on a TV pilot that showcases my different characters.
I hope you're enjoying this podcast episode. We'll be right back after this short message from one of our sponsors. Comfotherm Thermal Wraps are designed to help relieve the pain and swelling in and around the jaw, especially after wisdom teeth extractions. For more information, visit comfotherm.com. That's comfotherm.com. I'd actually like to talk about that. Let's talk about Bruno Bars. What was the inspiration behind Bruno Bars and your other characters, and how are you able to make that just flourish?
You know, it's funny, about 2-3 years ago, it was Halloween, and I dressed up as a gangster rapper, and I went on stage at a comedy show. You know, so as a gangster rapper, everybody expected me to speak like hood, you know. But I said it'd be funny if I spoke with a Filipino accent. So I went on stage, you know, improvising, and I started talking with a Filipino accent like this, and then everybody was like, "Oh my goodness, he's very funny." And then, you know, it was, and I went up there with a Filipino accent, dressed as a rapper. Everybody was dying, and I was like, wait a minute, this is fun. So that's how I birthed Bruno Bars. He became the Filipino rapper from Manila. You know, he's an immigrant rapper, still struggling with his English, and but it's so funny because I've actually stuck with it. I created social media pages for him. I even recorded a whole mixtape of Filipino themed hip hop songs, and now like it got to the point for one summer that people actually thought he was a real person. So I started booking Filipino festivals as Bruno Bars. And I was running with it for a while, but I said, you know what, I don't want to be this guy for my entire career. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to showcase my ability to do other characters and voices, you know. So I started developing other characters, their own personas, different social media pages, and I've been creating music videos, parody music videos, funny videos as my different characters. They even rap. So all of them have their own rap styles, and I'm recording a compilation album of all my characters. So it sounds like a one-man compilation, like a one-man Wu-Tang type of thing. So that's been fun, you know.
Yeah, and I know that you have that incorporated into your comedy acts as well. So, and Bruno Bars is kind of like the finale. It
really depends too, you know. Like you know, in metropolitan areas, he works really well when people understand Filipino humor and culture. Bruno Bars does really well. But for instance, like I said, if I'm traveling to places like in 2 weeks, I'm going to be in Washington, Richland, and there's no nobody knows what a Filipino is in some places in the country. I don't end my show with Bruno bars. So I'm able to adapt and actually, utilize other aspects of my humor, but or end the show with a different character. So that's why I just try to be versatile and flexible when it comes to my performance.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about Bruno Mars, actually. Have you ever gotten any feedback directly from Bruno Mars or not necessarily? Or are you hoping to get a reaction from him? Have you gotten any reaction like from his fans or from him directly or?
I want to. Hopefully, if he does, one day I'll get his attention. I'm a fan of Bruno Mars. A friend of mine actually in Las Vegas is friends with his dad, so maybe one day I'll be able to make that happen. Yeah, of course, obviously Bruno Bars is a play off Bruno Mars. It's just a parody. And because people would say sometimes, you kind of look like Bruno Mars. I said, all right. So that's how I played around with it and created this character, Bruno Bars.
Talk about some of your charity and paying forward efforts. And then the last thing I wanted to ask you was, what would you tell your 21-year-old self differently about what you know now that you could have told him then or back then? 21-year-old Vince was very into music business. I wanted to be the next Russell Simmons or P. Diddy and have my own record label. I didn't think I would be doing stand-up. Like I said, it was just something that I came across and didn't know I would be passionate about or enjoy doing or, take me all over the world. So I would probably be shocked at myself talking to 21-year-old me, but at the same time, just tell him to be ready for a ride in the journey and tell him to stay away from certain toxic people. Yeah.
Yeah, like, you know what? You need to stay away from this chick, Vince. Stay focused. That's what I would tell him, And then, sometimes, but you know what? At the same time, I might not even say anything because even those negative experiences of those toxic people help me develop my wisdom and help me, actually become a better judge of character. So I think we need any type of experiences. So I think I wouldn't even warn him about it. I said, you know what, just enjoy the ride, the journey. You're going to learn a lot. Yeah.
And then talk about your paying forward efforts, your charity efforts. I know that you've had some previous events or fundraising events. Talk a little bit about that if you could.
Like I said, growing up in Jersey City and my mother always not being around, my father left when I was younger, I've always felt neglected in the sense of abandonment. And so now I'm able to empathize with children and people just going through hard times. So what I do is every other month I go down to Mexico. I volunteer at orphanages and I also organize clothing and food drives for the homeless. So it's just, I feel like there's something that it's just a small way of giving back. You can't just be caught up in entertainment. I'm also, I have to remember I'm part of this human family. And it kind of keeps me balanced and grounded to understand that, no matter where you are in life, that could all be taken away. No matter how much fame, fortune, and success, the only thing I have is my integrity and my character and what I can give back to everyone else around me. And I think just being positive and now that I understand that I'm becoming sort of like mini public figure. I know there are people that look up to me, so maybe my actions can inspire others to do good things and just create a ripple effect of positivity.
Got it. And parting words for young comedians out there, what would you like to tell them?
For young comedians?
Yeah.
Just if you really want to create, you want this to be a long run. It's not a race. It's more of a marathon, A lot of people think they have to, and don't always compare yourself to other people. Different people have different journeys. There's people that I've started with in this comedy game that have their own television shows or been in movies. And if you're looking at other people and you'll just get discouraged because everybody has their own path and their own journey, It's your time, it's your time. but I do know that you have to respect the craft. If this is something that you want to be, you want to monetize, and you want to create a career out of it, definitely take it seriously. Do your work, right? You know what I'm saying? Go on stage every night, write, constantly perform, and constantly work the craft and respect it. And also don't forget that it is a business, you know? Be professional and you know, if you don't need a manager or a booking agent, but learn how to manage yourself. Learn how to be your own booking agent. Learn the different aspects of marketing and be, you know, and stuff like that. And that's going to separate you from everybody else. I know, you know, there's thousands and thousands of artists and comedians and rappers out there that are much more talented than I am. But I know I created a career for myself, and I've learned to support myself and monetize from my talents based on me just seeing it as my own business and treating it as my own enterprise.
The Vince Royale Enterprise. Perfect. Now, where can we follow you? Where can your followers and listeners follow you on social media?
Oh, I have multiple social media pages. I have a few pages on Facebook. So just look up Vince Royale, Royale. I'm very active on my Facebook and also Instagram. Same thing, Vince Royale, Royale. You know, just add me, and if you're interesting enough, I'll follow back or message me, and I'll invite you guys to shows and keep you updated on upcoming projects. You know, I'm the type of dude, I interact with everybody. I'm not, you know, I'm not one of those like, hey, you know, I'm doing this, I'm better than you. I find everybody I come across very interesting and fascinating. I'm the type of dude, I'm very, like I said, I'm a regular dude. I never see myself as like, yeah, you know what, I'm an entertainer or I'm better than this or that person. You know, I go to people's barbecues, you know, baby showers. I'll show up, I'll hang out, you know, as long as you have tacos.
Yeah. So I will have all that information for all the listeners and followers as well. We'll have Vince's social media and links in the show notes below. Vince, thank you so much for being on the show. We truly, truly appreciate it. I'm so excited to see you in some of your upcoming events or some upcoming performances as well. But keep doing what you do, because you're certainly making an impact, especially, if I may say, in the Filipino community and, of course, in all the other diverse communities. You certainly are making an impact, and I really, truly appreciate all your efforts and what you're doing.
Annie, I appreciate you. Thank you for interviewing me, and, you know, continue to, you know, highlight and showcase different artists. And I think, you know, as an artist and as a comedian, you know, I'm contributing to the happiness and joy in the world and spreading positivity. So, you know, by you sharing your gifts and my gifts, you know, it's a blessing. You know, please continue to do what you do as well. You know, and thank you for having me. And I look forward to listening to more of your podcast.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, that's it, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Annie Talks and learning about my friend and comedian Vince Royale. This multi-talented comedian will be performing in cities and locations throughout the U.S., and I will list all of his upcoming performances in the show notes below. And if you're in the area and interested in catching one of his shows, be sure to check out these dates and times. So, before we sign off, if you aren't already subscribed to my podcast, I invite you to hit subscribe and be notified anytime we upload a new episode. If you are already subscribed, thank you so much. I truly appreciate it, and if you could all please rate and review my podcast, leave a comment or two, it would really help me out, and it will help others to find this podcast as well. And lastly, if you like this podcast, please consider contributing to my Patreon page. Your contributions will help to further the vision and mission of Annie Talks so that we could produce more episodes like this one and many other types of episodes and topics. The Patreon page will also be included in the show notes below. Thank you all again for tuning in, and keep listening to Annie Talks.
What's up, everybody? This is Vince Royale, comedian, actor, rapper, and I'm here tuning in to Annie Talks.